February 11th, 2025, here in Palm Desert. And would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And roll call, please.
Good morning, President Powell.
Here.
Vice President Estrada.
Here.
Director Bianco.
Here.
Director Aguilar.
Here.
And Director Nelson.
Here.
Thank you.
It's a very short agenda today for the open session. So do we have any additions, deletions, or adjustments to our agenda today?
No, sir, we do not.
I don't think we do. Is there anybody from the public wishing to comment at this time? Seeing none. A couple items on the consent calendar. What is the pleasure of the board on the consent calendar?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed 5-0. And then our action calendar. 7A. This is the proposed sponsorship of the 33rd Annual Senior Inspiration Awards for $750. That's a table sponsorship. And I believe that was requested by Vice President Estrada.
Yeah, making
That's
use
good.
of our new policy real quick. Thank you. And but we did this last year, and same thing we did last year. It's the smallest sponsorship that you could do. It's $750 for a table. I think a lot of different agencies get tables. I know Mission Springs gets a table, probably IID, a bunch of the cities. So I think it's an event that's celebrated by the entire Coachella Valley, and I think it's good that we're there.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve.
What constitutes a senior?
I'm not sure if there's an age, but maybe we can ask.
I would think 55.
You know if you want.
55.
55?
That'd
Yeah,
be you then.
Yeah, it's like the Nobel Peace Prize. Like you don't know unless you
I mean,
get
it could be
nominated.
60, but I think it's 55. 55? And we don't know who they're honoring until
No,
right before?
I think you know.
We already know, because I looked at the invitation, or the materials, and it didn't say anything about who they're honoring.
I think there's already certain cities putting up billboards for their honorees.
Oh, cool.
Yet, so
All right, so, yeah, this is, I agree, it's a good thing, and I'm really glad that we're in a position where we could support such a highly regarded community event.
John, I would support this as well, but I would ask that, I'm not going to be able to go, but that we try to fill up the table, because we've not been able to fill up the table the last time we did this, and it looks kind of odd.
well, it got filled up. I think it just wasn't filled up by CVWD staff.
Yeah, that's what I meant by CVWD's page.
Yeah, I think only about like 4 or 5 of us were there, and
Yeah.
so we probably filled it up about 50%. And then I think Gretchen joined us, so I remember her
Yeah.
there. But yeah, I would agree that I think part of what we're trying to do here is have our staff there. So so I agree with you.
Okay, did we hear a motion to approve this?
Yes, I made a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passed 5-0.
Thank
And
you.
then, in engineering, we have this task order with Krieger and Stewart, Armando, low pressure connections, so we have to add these, yes, go ahead.
Good morning, President Powell, members of the board, audience, and fellow staff. Our request this morning is to seek authorization for the general managers to execute task order 8 with Craig Stewart in the amount of $261,000 for engineering design services for the Ward 10 existing low pressure non-potable connection project, and additional soft costs for civil engineering of $50,000, project contingency of $30,000, and for a total request today of $341,000. In a nutshell, we have expanded the non-potable water system And I think we have done some work to all these new connections. But we have to look back to the 9 existing customers that's here pictured on the map on Desert Willow, Palm Greens, Silver Sands, Marriott, Desert Springs, Portola Country Club, and First Tee, and also Palm Desert High School. They currently do not have any flow control or pressure control. And so as we make the new system live, we have to come back and make sure we don't have any surge events, and also make sure that we have more ability to control these flows so that not one customer gets all the flow or all the pressure. And so what we're doing is just basically, in essence, cleaning house on these 9 existing customers. I'll stop there to see if there's any questions or continue with my presentation.
I don't have it. Go ahead, Armando.
So as I said before, this work is required because we have installed a new pump station in a new series of non-potable water systems. The project is to design and construct new valves and new control valves to 9 existing non-potable customers. The 9 customers include Desert Willow, Palm Desert, Silver Sands, Marriott Desert Springs, Portola, First Tee, and Palm Desert and Silver Sands. We have gone out to an informal RFP for this design effort. And we, on October 28th, a total of 3 proposals were received on November 18th. The design cost was from $218,000 to $442. After reviewing the proposals from Engineering Resources, we have looked that they have excluded all the survey effort. As you can see, there's a lot of area here to cover in regards to survey. And so that is a big chunk of the dollar amount. So we just concluded that proposal to be not responsive, because that was one of the big criteria within our RP, that survey was to be included. So we reviewed the other 2 proposals, and we found that KNS had a good best value at $261,000. So therefore, we're recommending that we approve this task order with KNS. This project is currently on our budget at $320,000 with sanitation paygo funds. So we have plenty of budget to take care of this task. With that, I'll conclude my presentation to see if there's any additional questions.
Thank you. These other ones to the east that are already in place, are they going to need the same thing?
We have only identified these 9 as
Yeah.
the ones that need to have the flow control and pressure control.
Okay.
The other ones will not need to have this
Just-
additional work.
you don't think we'll have to go back and do those? Okay. And then anything new will have it
Yeah,
on the
we
installation.
that's our standard now. That
Okay.
we installed flow and pressure control now.
Fair
Back in
enough.
1980, when we did majority of these, we didn't do this.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Is there a motion to approve this item?
Yes,
So-
I'll move approval.
I'll second it. Any other questions or discussion before we vote? And hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That
Thank you.
passed 5-0. Thanks, Armando. That gets us down to written communications.
And we had none this time.
Didn't
The
see
last
any, yeah.
received was January 27th, which was filed at our January 28th board meeting.
Yeah, thank you. Board general comments, Director Nelson,
No comment.
No comments.
John?
No.
No
Wow.
comments.
Okay. I'll make my comments during my other thing. So on to meeting reports. December 12th, Director Estrada.
Yeah, that was a meeting that I had missed reporting on, and it was we have these monthly Salton Sea Executive Committee meetings, which I've reported on before, and so this was one that I had missed for that month. So we meet with the director, executive director of the Salton Sea Authority, and President Gina Dockstader. How do you pronounce it?
Dockstader.
Dockstader. Yeah. So those are those meetings, and so I hadn't reported on it.
Okay. And then we had the Salt and Sea Authority on the 16th, Director Aguilar.
Yeah, so we had a number of reports that were provided. We did have a pretty interesting presentation by Susan Ming, who's the program chief at the Corps of Engineers, who did a pretty, like I say, interesting and pretty extensive, and it's online if you want to see it, update on the Imperial Stream Salton Sea and Tributary Feasibility Study, and went over the timeline for that. And then the other, I think, major event that took place, Joe Shea was there, who's the new Assistant Secretary for Salton Sea Affairs, and was able to make some opening comments about his expectations for the new conservancy.
Okay. And then you also have the next day. Or did
Next
you cover?
day-
Did you just cover that? Maybe you did. Were those two different things?
Yeah, so the second meeting actually was a discussion with Patrick and with Vice President Estrada regarding the talking points for the meeting with Joe Shea, which I was not able to attend.
Okay. Next, January 29th, Salton Sea Conservancy, Director Estrada.
Yeah, so just to follow up on the meeting before, since I don't see my name there for the January 17th, and it doesn't appear that I reported on that at the last meeting, you should add me to this one. Sylvia? Correct. And as Director Aguilar mentioned, that was in preparation for the meeting that we had on the 29th. I was there with General Manager Barrett and Samantha and Joe, and we had a pretty lengthy conversation. I think it must have maybe we almost hit 2 hours, Jim, I think. But there was a lot. They had a presentation, which I don't know if they shared with us, but we should get a copy of that.
For sure.
It kind of the presentation mostly started with some of the background related to the legislative action that established the Conservancy, and then they kind of defined the roles and the responsibilities of the Conservancy as defined in the law, and so I think we were able to also share with them our involvement via the Water District and the Salton Sea Authority with Senator Padilla to try to ensure that the Conservancy actually became something that that we wanted it to do. We reminded them that we were actually at the Salton Sea Authority. We were the ones that started scratching at the idea of a conservancy, and that we had started that late work with Assemblymember Garcia, specifically because we had identified that we had no mechanism for funding for the O&M for projects that were being implemented by the state or by other agencies. And so a lot of the money that we're getting through the state appropriations, those are one-time money for basically for capital improvements and for projects, but there was really no O&M mechanism for that. And so that's how the idea of the Conservancy came about. And then, so we kind of said, we worked a lot with Senator Padilla to try to ensure that was the role that the Conservancy was going to play. And I think, and that's kind of what it is. That's the role it's going to play. And so, and we also didn't want to duplicate efforts with the Salton Sea Authority. So I think we got that. And then we went over the timeline of how this Conservancy needs to be established. When the board of directors need to be put in place. I think they need to be put in place by the beginning of next year. So I think that's what they're working on is I believe it's a 15-member Conservancy, and so 5 of those will come out of I believe 5 or 10 of those will come out of essentially with the Salton Sea Authority, and then they have some appointments, but they have to do some legwork to see who they appoint at the state level for those other 5 or 10 positions. So we talked about that. We talked about how they plan to roll out some of what the conservancy is going to be involved with. I think related to the O&M. They had, you know, they wanted somebody like boots on the ground to kind of check up on projects, and so they're basically, I think what I got out of the meeting is they were giving us a kind of a preview of how they plan to stand up the conservancy, and then some of the first things that the conservancy is going to be involved with, and then that was it. It was just them telling us what they saw. I think for the next year and a half, and then just wanted to hear, you know, what we thought about it. So that's what we heard.
Good.
Yeah, and I think they were open to getting together with you at some other point. So I don't know
Yeah,
if
they
you
sent me
reached
an email.
out, but
I got an email from
but yeah, but it was a good conversation. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I had one other yesterday. We had the DVBA board meeting that was pretty standard, but they have this. I know we've attended this in the past, but they have the first Thursday of each month their legislative forum at Rancho Mirage City Hall. I know I've been to that once, but they would love to have somebody from CVWD there. It's a good organization. I think they have a fairly good. They mentioned you, Lorraine. They want you, or whoever. But that was who they mentioned. They're like, why doesn't Lorraine come to our thing? So it is the first Thursday of each month at 7:30 a.m. at Rancho Mirage City Hall, and it's good. You know, they're now they have getting the newly elected folks or newly districted folks to come out and make sure they know who we are in the Coachella Valley. Anyways, is there any other meetings?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I had one meeting, Mr. Chairman, on February 4th. We had a Section 5 call to discuss ongoing work related to the 2026 guideline renegotiations, and I think fairly good direction right now as the 7 states are pushing to get most of the I don't want to say dirty laundry, but most of the pertinent and most pressing issues on the table to be discussing. So a lot of times they work around those issues, but they're trying to put those on the table and listen to each other as far as moving forward, the discussions forward. So that was it.
Thank you. Any others? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve per diem for the meetings reported?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passed 5-0. General manager report.
Yes, sir. We can probably get Scott to proctor rock, paper, scissors between Lorraine and Karen over who's going to attend the DVBA. Karen now does our government external affairs.
I'm sure they'd love to meet you, Karen.
I think last time there was a conflict with an Aqua meeting. So otherwise Karen was
Yeah, so conflict last time is what Scott's reporting with the Aqua meeting, which is why we didn't attend. But we'll calendar it and see if we've got the opportunity to go.
They do some good programming.
If I recall, during the legislative meeting that we went to, Karen, James Brownyard was going to start including you, I think, in some of those. So you may want to reach out to him as well.
I have nothing else, sir.
Thank you. Council report.
Yes, Mr. President, as we all know, we've been tracking the EOs from the president in the last couple of weeks. The ones that apply here, of course, we're all aware of the one on January 20th and the 24th regarding water resources, as well as the governor's executive order, which called for the Department of Water Resources to take all feasible and appropriate action to maximize diversions of excess flows that become available as a result of the anticipated winter storms and other winter storms to storage, including storage in San Luis Reservoir. So a lot going on there. You're all aware of that, but our office is keeping track of those and many others. So that's all I have.
Thank
So
you.
if I could comment on
Yeah, go ahead.
on that. So with the executive order, number 4 of the governors indicated that DWR and the fish agencies should get to him any obstacles about exporting any other waters. So the obstacle is obviously the biological opinion, which is limiting exports through Banks and Tracy pumps up to San Luis. San Luis is about 90% full right now, so there's not a lot of room. But I talked to Robert, and we tried to make some headway into getting some relaxation of the BIOPS, and then some creative thoughts about carryover spill, because right now there's a lot of carryover that agencies have, Met being the largest carryover in San Luis, which is partly ours. And so the idea was to try and relax some of those rules. We didn't really get anywhere. And as a result of that, the pumps stayed maybe increased by about 10%, and still well below the maximum that they could be pumping, about, I think, 60% of their capacity. And yet we went from about 30,000, I have an interesting graph here that I put together, but about 30,000 acre feet of delta outflow to the ocean, up to over 400,000 now for several days, and continuing on with the releases from Oroville and Shasta. So that's opportunities lost because of the fact that we have some OMR, which is Old Middle River regulations that don't allow pumping.
Be nice if somebody could report on that. I mean, you read the news reports and it's just uneducated people saying things that are politically motivated, and it's like, why don't we get down to the reality of what's actually happening?
Yeah,
I mean, I appreciate your facts and details.
Yeah, no, President Trump's executive order was a little bit problematic in the fact that as a result of his order to get water to the fires in LA, there was a initiation of water being released out of some of the east side reservoirs of the Central Valley that had less than zero chance of any water getting to Southern California, and started releasing water, but better heads prevailed, and it only lasted for about 10 hours, I think. So,
yeah, thank you. Are there any department reports? We got time today. This is your chance. Hearing none. At this time, we'll recess to closed session to consider the items on the agenda, and then we will reconvene following closed session to report out.
8:26.
Regular meeting is hereby reconvened. We do not have any reportable action from closed session, and with no further business, we are adjourned.